Good morning, everybody. Kristine Varkony, live here in the NBC4i Streaming Center. Joining me right now is a special guest, my very first guest, actually, here in the new Streaming Center since COVID, Alex Fischer, CEO of Columbus Partnership. And Alex is joining us because he announced, I believe it was last week, Alex, that you will be stepping back away from Columbus Partnership after more than a decade in the role as CEO. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. How are you feeling about the announcement of your decision?
Thank you. By the way, it's a great new studio, so this is fun to be here.
Thank you.
I feel great. 13 years has been absolutely the best 13 years of my life, and stepping away and back from the partnership, as you say, but not Columbus, and could not be more bullish on our future. But it's been an amazing time at the partnership, incredible organization, and even more incredible community.
I guess, us in the media and in the news industry are really plugged into what exactly the Columbus Partnership does, and we know what you guys do. Can you just tell people who might not be familiar what the role is and what you guys do for the city of Columbus?
In a nutshell, we're 75 CEOs who bring our community interest to our table, leave our selfish interest at the door, work on community projects, trying to build our city into the best possible city that it can be. We focus primarily on economic development and economic growth. Over the last decade, we've seen over 200,000 new jobs that we've helped to create. But we're also involved in downtown redevelopment, and candidly, if it's good for Columbus and we're interested in it, always partnering with our mayor, our governor, and other public officials to get our work done.
Over the past 13 years, how have you seen Columbus grow and change? I just remember, I'm from Eastern Ohio. I remember coming here to visit family as, a child, and just the expansion over, the past 30 years for me, but even in the past 13 years, I feel like it's been immense. And you're a Columbus transplant. You've been here for a while, but how's it grown since you've been here and then after taking the reins at Columbus Partnership?
Yeah, it's really remarkable. If you look out back over a couple of decades, we've grown by almost 1 million people here in Central Ohio. And over the last decade, Columbus has simply been one of the great growth stories of the American economy. And for cities greater than 1 million people, we are the leader year in and year out. We clearly have become the new center of the Midwest. We're the new center of the Ohio economy. And so the vibrancy is simply stunning when I look around and think about where it was and where it is. But candidly, I have a belief that we're just getting started. So I think our best days are ahead of us. But the last decade certainly has set a foundation that has been really important.
I want to talk about the highs and the lows over the past 13 years for you. Let's start with the lows and we can end on the highs. What are some, some things that you guys have struggled through and us as a city have struggled through, and how has that been overcome, and how are we possibly still overcoming it in the work that needs to be done?
I think a couple of things come to mind. One is education. And, candidly, we just simply have too many of our kids that aren't in the best of schools, and we've worked hard trying to understand how to improve that and what the opportunities look like. I think our low point was the failed education levy a number of years ago that we had great aspirations for, but clearly we hadn't done a very good job of communicating to the voter. So I think we've got a lot of work ahead of us as it relates to public education. I think a big, it's not a disappointment, but probably the biggest opportunity, but it does come from a low point, are the issues that have really bubbled over in society over the last year related to race. And they're not immune to Columbus. We have big issues of systemic racism. We have to get comfortable that those are real words, and people can debate all sorts of nuances of that. But surely we could just simply admit that we have a lot of work that we have to do to make sure that people of color, women in our community have the same economic opportunities that the white males and those of us that are in the majority population have had. So I'm actually very optimistic that we have an amazing commitment to improving our diversity initiatives and making sure that we're creating economic opportunities for everyone But that's also one of the low points. I hope we're taking that low point and turning it into something that Columbus can be very proud of.
So, what are some high points for you? And then I want to kind of circle back and talk about Columbus 2020 because, you talk about Columbus being one of the most prosperous, but we wanted to do so, equally. And so there's equality and all of that. Do you think that we've made strides towards that with the Columbus 2020, which is now one Columbus?
Yeah. So, when we first created Columbus 2020, we set a goal of creating 150,000 net new jobs. I think that number is now over 200,000 jobs. And clearly, if I think about the high points over the last decade for me, every single one of those jobs represents a family that is improved and has economic opportunity that they didn't have, or perhaps not as good an opportunity as before. And when you think about the ability for us to help that many people and the families that are associated with it, that is clearly the high point. But as you point out, today we've got a different conversation. It's not just simply about creating the job. We've got to make sure that we're creating economic prosperity for everybody, regardless of where you live, regardless of where your zip code is, regardless of the color of your skin. And as we think of the next decade, that's really the conversation. It's how do we keep the economic engine and growth moving forward? How do we also do it in a way that is helping to make sure that everybody is sharing in that prosperity?
Do you think that goes back again to the education? Because you create all these jobs and perhaps maybe a bunch of, suburban 20-something-year-olds come in and they get those jobs. And of course, we love that. We love the growth of Columbus, the city proper. But you got to think of the kids who, were born and raised here as well and go through our schooling system. So do you think perhaps it goes hand in hand?
Yeah, I do. And I think absolutely you've got to go back to the core fundamentals of education. A number of years ago, we helped in partnership with a number of our CEO leaders form the KIPP School. It's one of the highest performing KIPP schools in the country. It's a charter school that's serving our inner city youth. It's one example because when I look at the kids that have gone through that school, when I look at their graduation rates, when I look now at what they're doing as they move out of high school and into the workforce, into college, and then into the workforce, that's how we're going to have to keep breaking the cycle. So very interconnected, challenging issues that face every American city. What's unique in Columbus, though, we've got a group of corporate leaders who wake up every day, not just simply thinking about their companies, but also thinking about their communities, thinking about how they can work through the partnership and work individually to make this city the best possible city in America. That's a unique ingredient that so many places don't have.
What do you think attracts so many people, more than 1 million people over the past decade coming here? Or did you say it was past 2 decades? I'm trying to recall.
Yeah, I think what we've seen is about 1 million people in growth over the last couple of decades.
Okay.
Look, we've got a great location. We've got a diversity of, companies. At the end of the day, most people come because there's a job opportunity here. Mm-hmm. So at the center of that is the economic vibrancy. Increasingly over the last decade, we're seeing entrepreneurialism that's happening all over. You can look at Olive or Root or Beam Dental or these, millennials that are creating these great new companies that are going to be the companies of the future. You look at the short north and the eclectic nature, the fact that Columbus is 2 years younger than the national average, the high density that we have of 150,000 college students. You take all of those ingredients together, and those are the ingredients that companies look for when they want to grow. And when companies are growing, they're hiring. And when people are hiring, people are coming to the city. And so we've got those ingredients at play. I was thinking about, the Columbus Crew game tonight. And, we were a big part of making sure that the Crew stayed in Columbus. But it wasn't simply about a soccer team.
Yeah.
It's about the vibrancy of the city. And I look at the new stadium that the Haslamans and Edwards have built and how it represents the future of our city, even in its architecture and its vibrancy. And I take the entire Arena District and the Blue Jackets, and you take Ohio State sports, you mix all of that together. No one of those individual ingredients is the game changer. You take them together and they create the vibrancy of a city that people want to live in.
Absolutely. Just that you were so integral, with the Save the Crew movement and getting the people on board to make sure they stayed here. I feel like that's when we got to know you a little bit better and the role you play here in Columbus. And it's kind of crazy to think about now we have this brand new stadium, but I feel like the Save the Crew movement and the whole Austin thing, I feel like that was like 30 seconds ago.
Yeah, it's amazing, and maybe it's a little bit of the COVID Rip Van Winkle nature of us. We all kind of went into hiding, so to speak, and then we came back out, and oh my gosh, there's this one of the most amazing stadiums anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And when you get inside it, it's phenomenal. It's electric. It's exciting. And look, we were happy to play a role in it, but it's kind of what we do.
Yeah.
We try to quietly do our work. That one probably got a lot more public exposure because of the Save the Crew movement. But it's symbolic of what happens when the private sector comes together with public leaders and works on tough problems together and tries to solve those problems.
So you are in your role until the end of the year. What do you hope? Do you hope to accomplish anything in that time, or is it more like a transition to help your successor?
Well, we're not going to slow down, but Kenny McDonald, who's been my partner for the last 11 years running our economic development efforts, One Columbus, has been selected by our board to succeed me. Couldn't be happier for him and more excited for the community. He'll have a different vantage point, and he'll bring new ideas, but he'll also honor the history that the organizations have for the last couple of decades. So I'll help through the end of the year him transition and always be available to him and the community any way that I can help. But we'll finish strong. So anybody who knows me knows we're not going to lay down or slow down. There's a lot of work to be accomplished, a lot of jobs to be created. So we'll run hard through the finish line, so to speak, and then figure out what we want to do next.
Why did you feel it was the right time to step down?
It's a very personal decision. So I think 13 years in this type of a job is somewhat like a public official who's been serving in an office for 3 or 4 terms of office. I think internally when you begin to think about the right time to make a transition. I think it's actually one of the most important things a leader can do is to have the right, self-awareness of when's the right time to transition. So it felt right for me personally, but it also feels right for me for the community. We've got amazing engagement of our corporate leaders. We've got now more stability coming out of COVID. I mean, we've got more activity going on than I've ever seen this year. So it would have been impossible to make this decision a year ago, but today things are on more of a stable foot for the partnership and for the community. It matches up with how I'm thinking about it personally. So I guess there's it's more art than science, but now that I've made the announcement, it even feels solidified that that's the right decision. So feel great about it, but also feel great about where Columbus is headed over the next decade.
Do you have any political aspirations for yourself, potentially?
I don't. I've been in the world of politics before in the state of Tennessee. I feel like actually over the last decade I've been in and around the political fray. What I would say is I want to continue to have impact. And I'm open to how that happens, whether it's in the world of public service or whether it's moving back solely in the private sector. Whatever I do, I'll certainly be looking to continue to have community impact.
All right. One last question for you. Where do you see Columbus going? What do you think the big precipice is for the next decade?
So what I think about is the year 2100, when none of us are here. And I think Columbus has the opportunity to be the great American city that is the shining example of what you can do around the world. where the world is looking to a place like Columbus as the model, a place that's solving the issues of race, a place that's solving the issues of education, a place that's giving prosperity to all of its citizens, in a place that remains the best place to live, work, play, pray, raise a family. So I'm very, very optimistic. But I asked the question about where we're going to be 100 years from now. That's the North Star that I think about as an aspiration for the city.
And how can us as individuals here in Columbus, I'm not a CEO, I'm
Mhm.
not a politician, just as an individual person here in Columbus, what do you think the steps are, or how do you think that we can help with that aspiration to
Yeah, by the
make
way,
Columbus the great American city?
it's a great question. I think I may be one of the examples because obviously from my Southern accent and
Yes.
as a Tennessean, I'm not from here. But I raised my hand. I got involved, and watch out what you raise your hand for in Columbus. And here I sort of hold the keys to the city. I think Columbus is so opening to people getting involved, to ideas, to perspectives. So we have to keep broadening the tables of Columbus, giving the opportunities for good ideas to come from anywhere where they exist. So bring forward ideas, get involved in whatever you're passionate about, whether it's your local community or it's your church or it's a school, or you've got a bigger aspiration and an idea, bring it forward because in Columbus, it's a place where those ideas can change the world.
All right, Alex, I appreciate you being here. As you can tell, it's starting to get busy time here
Yep,
in the
indeed.
newsroom, shift change. So we will wrap things up, and I really appreciate it. Anything else you would like to add? Anything you want to say to the people of Central Ohio as you kind of start your journey into wrapping up your time as CEO of the Columbus Partnership?
Well, I would just simply say thanks to what everybody is doing. This has, for our family, we now call Columbus home.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed that 15 years ago. And that's because of the people of Central Ohio. So, from our family, a big thank you for everything you've meant to us. And we've all got a lot of hard work ahead of us. So, let's keep rolling up our sleeves and doing the work of the future.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you missed the beginning of this interview, I'm going to clip it and put it up on NBC4i.com. If you are watching there right now, it will be there shortly. And if you are joining us on social media, in the link that I've placed in the comment section of the Facebook or Twitter, wherever you're watching, you can click that and watch there. We will see you later. Bye.